Hello. Currently, we are looking at Australia. Looking at from Western Australia here. Once I get this organized, I'm sorry. I don't think we're going to find any wildfires over here because these areas are so heavily saturated with water from Cyclone Jasper to burn scars from previous fires that were in the season. So Queensland, or just the whole east coast of Australia, is going to be seeing a lot of precipitation and a lot of flooding. There's going to be a lot of flash flooding. There's going to be a lot of rivers reaching their banks, going over the banks. This is a crucial time in eastern Australia as persevere through these floods that have been plaguing them. So eventually, though, the flooding will not as recede as much. I haven't seen much flooding in Australia yet. I haven't looked at much of the news. See a lot of flooding in Germany that I was looking at. A lot of very tragic, just all around flooding. But can't really see usually water flooded on satellite as well as I'd hope. We can try, but unless the ground is really flooded, like it can be sometimes difficult to lift a scan out of here that really shows the water damage unless it is so widespread. And the scans will populate. We use false color so we can see areas that are primed with fire. You see these areas here that aren't fires. Here, these areas are some fire damage. It just appears. So like I would consider this a bushfire. It's not very high, but it is fast moving and low to the ground. Not a wildfire, but still alarming just by the sheer scale of it. Because can we see any smoke from this image? Smoke's minimal. Now, Northern Territory is where we've been seeing. We're going to transit right now to Northern Territory so we can check out all the hot spots around this area. That's just a huge burn, which is what in the last 2 days. Burns on the river are probably the worst because they just don't go away. Hey. This looks like a nightmare. Still in Northern Territory. This is a huge spread fire. Just recently, just no sign of fire in the days leading up to this burn. No sign, just huge area. 20 kilometers. Yes. Some of these fires, they can burn dozens of kilometers in a straight line, burning true, as especially if they get caught in a wind and gust. I see some fire there. Bottom left corner over here. See this fire down here in the south. This perimeter is running around this hillside. Wondering how it jumped containment or just went into a really bushy area that allowed for a lot of brush to fall over itself into this area, which would ignite a fire. Huh. Well, we're currently looking and looking and looking. Okay, let's go back up. Now that we're entering into the Northern Territory, we were just looking at the border from Western Australia to the Northern Territory, which is the middle region, south middle, central north region. Now that is a huge wall of flame. I don't mean huge as in tall, I just mean like for how wide this is. It's burning alongside other paths that have burned previously. As you can see, this yellowing. The green is the most recent fuel, you could call it. Okay. Now it's burning a little more to the southeast, but it pretty quick. So 1222. $12.22. $12.27. And then the first. This thing really sprawled out over a couple of weeks. But, oh wow. There's some previous areas that are burned. Whoa. No sign of flame. The 30th to the 1st. And then just massive. Let's take a look at true color and make sure we can see the smoke. Yep, that is a lot of smoke coming out. That is a lot of smoke fanning out. It's rising up and curves. And it'll eventually fall down because it's particulate heavy, so it's the particulates that is shaking out. as it's in the sky rising. It get higher up, the less particulate matter accumulates. These two fires here, these separate fires, same burn, but these two smokes become intertwined and make a support structure of smoke, allowing the fire to just go where it wants under a blanket of heat. It's hot. That is really hot. This ridge right here, that is insanely hot. And it just appears. Strange little fire here. I'm not going to bother with time lapse because it's too small, and it definitely will be just within the last day or so. A lot of these fires are within the last day or so. Wait for this to come back up. There we go. These barrens are just very brutal and very fast. Still in Northern Territory, Australia. Ooh, let's go to true color on this one. A lot of smoke. There's a lot of smoke coming in the area. The thing about Australia is it doesn't really have any air quality sensors or stations or gauges. They have two, all for Northern Territory. One's in Alice Springs and the other one, I believe, is in Darwin. So how are you supposed to plan for your day if you're in for a day of hiking when you have literal smoke, big black billowing smoke just screwing up your entire day because your breathing is going to be changing now. Your respiratory problems have just begun because you're out hiking and rock climbing and outcrop skirting. These fires aren't very far from where there is a lot of tourism in the Northern Territory. So yeah, you can see the fires, but it's always the smoke that can be a lingering issue. Especially when you have no way of knowing that the quality of the air that you're breathing is hazardous. It's a problem. Why we do this. It's why I look at Australia in hopes that somebody would see this and go, okay, there are some severe fire outbreaks in Australia, but I'm not saying these are emergencies. This one definitely is. This is a monstrous multi-front complex of flame. Now that's massive fire here. So these fires are just starting again, and let's go take a look at the drought actually while we're waiting. Yeah, so where we're seeing the fires, it is not an extreme, rather the northern half of Northern Territory is seeing a lot of drought, but nothing extreme. But heat and fire drive away moisture and water. You get fires that don't do too much at once, but is corralling resources around, unbeknownst to people on top in the ground that are putting out the flame. It's just no warning, nothing, and then massive. Northern Territory is seeing some problems. I know it's supposed to be just a little drought, compared to Western Australia seeing extreme drought and much like more 1/3 of the country, more 1/3 of the state. Oh, yeah, this one flares up pretty good. How? 50 kilometers? I traveled 50 kilometers in 2 days. There's no running from that on foot. It's gonna get you. If not, the smoke will eventually find you. The fires, though, are hot and they are burning. An adequate amount of smoke that we'd expect from fires like this are coming out. We start getting in the more Queensland area and you see some spotty fires, but I don't expect to see much because there is some drought in between Northern Territory and Queensland. Now that's explosive growth. What is going on here? Mount Isa. Stunning amount of wildfires here. Huge lumbering fires. Etching itself into Queensland. This looks burned horribly. Is this recent? Hell yeah, that's recent. Ah. We do have fire here. Right there in that circle. It burned further out to what I imagine is a river. Holy. Whoa. That looks like some of the hottest flame I've seen so far. Taking a look at that is on the S1218. Let's make a note of that. S1218. Push play again. Monstrous fire that happened here. That's I don't know, let's just go back to December 2023 real quick. What day was that? 18th. Oh my god. All over all the fields too. Huge amounts of smoke. Look at that. Look at that. That is smoke. Those aren't clouds. And you see the culprits here. All along these highways. We're barely just getting into these fires. Look at that. Each plume a different fire racing around. Dozens of smaller fires making up larger perimeters. active fronts, and they wind up tying themselves together with fire, with smoke. I mean, it's a lot of bush smoke. This is nuts. This had to have been a giant wall of smoke coming at everybody. Depending on how tall it got. Looks like it's mixed with a lot of striation. Oh, that's a lot of glass smoke right there. That's a lot of smoke. Miles of smoke. You can see that smoke here over all the texture. Smoke. Oh, for miles of smoke. That is one hell of a wildfire that was burning. Wow. And now what's left here is this Duggan National Forest. It's huge. And that's Australia. Come over here. Venezuela. Oh. This lower half looks to have a lot of fires associated with it. So Venezuela, let's talk about seizing land of their neighbor. Not a lot of cloud coverage to actually see today, and just how much fire there is. Yeah, here's some. And there's some fires here burning. But is it just within the last 2 days, or no? We can see it's in the weeks. Massive. They don't look to be. That's one of those smoldering, deep-seated fire. There's some really intense fires. And that's the only scan out of Venezuela that we see here. Well, let's go over to Senegal. Anything? No. We keep going around, Ivory Coast. Oh, I still have that 1218 on the screen. Incremental updates regarding wildfire and conditions. I just browse through the scans to look for traces of fire, usually ones that are large vortex fires that are discernible at this height. A lot of cloud coverage. Oh yeah, let's... Is Botswana? Those look like burned fields. Agricultural purposes, burned fields for whatever magical thing can lead them to believe that burning the fields helps. And you let out the smoke out of everything you put in the ground. Why do you want to ruin the richness and spread disease and chaos by having these fires just take hold and not let go of an area, especially one that has a wetland in it, like South Sudan has. South Sudan has a wetland, and South Sudan almost as a whole is burning. It's not just the wetland, but it's the western side of the country as well. You have at least 2 national forests, a wetland, surrounded by fire. These are some pretty massive blazes that we're seeing. South Sudan's in trouble. Custodians of this land is seeing some really brutal conflicts with between the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese military. Ecocide and eco-terrorism looks not to be off the table, especially when you're dealing with Russian military. You say you learned from Russian military tactics of war. It's probably involving a lot of destroying and completely incinerating the ground around you. Let's go as far as East Darfur. Darfur. I don't know why it sounds funny when I say it. Darfur. I think it's a little better. Oh. All these paths just grinded out by fire. See that? A lot of fire. South Sudan is in trouble. This wetland, there is fire in the wetland. The actual wetland area itself is out of control. There's so much fire in South Sudan, I don't know if there is a modern way humans can combat it at this point. You're seeing fire on north, south, and west wetland lines. You see in areas like this burn within the wetland itself. These are beyond protected lands. This should be an international outcry and a referendum to International Criminal Court to anybody that was responsible for this mess. This amount of fire is without justice. Seeing a loss of South Sudan's natural beauty that they're not going to be able to recover from at any point. We can't lose a wetland. Can't. We're probably going to though, and it's very unfortunate and very damaging to global stability. Where is 6 months of rain gonna fall in 3 days? These aren't So at least 4 or 5 different areas of fire within the wetland itself. Okay. On that note, I thank you for watching and following the channel if you are. Please like and subscribe, it helps me out immensely. I am currently looking at fire and sea ice the most lately, but I've also covered some Warzone. I don't want to terribly into that because I hope this isn't a Warzone that I'm covering right here in South Sudan. It's just where people might be evacuating into. Now there's no place to evacuate to because all the roads are just set ablaze. Alright. Please be safe.